differently. The tales of his courage spread like wildfire. How a fragile human had shielded the princess. How he had faced danger without hesitation. How he had risked everything for someone not of his world. The Varine Circle. Once feared for their influence, now faced a subtle but powerful change. People whispered that a human had shown what true bravery looked like. If one human could do such a thing, what else could humans achieve? For the first time, humanity was seen not as outsiders, but as allies worthy of respect, perhaps even admiration. For Ares, the change was personal. She found herself speaking to Evan more often, asking about Earth, about his life, about simple things that no Lunari had ever cared to notice. He shared small stories about rain, about the feel of grass beneath bare feet, about nights filled with stars he had seen from his home planet. She listened with rapt attention, laughing at times, sighing at others, and sometimes just staring in wonder at the human who had saved her life. One evening, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Ares turned to Evan, her voice soft but steady. "You didn't just save me," she said quietly. "You changed the way my people see humans. You changed how I see the world. You reminded me that courage and kindness are stronger than fear and power." Evan looked at her, his tired eyes warm with understanding. "Sometimes all it takes is one choice," he said simply. "One choice to do what's right, no matter the cost." She nodded, a quiet smile playing on her lips. And in that moment, between human and Lunari, the Empire felt a little brighter, a little warmer, and a little more alive. Because one human had stood tall where others faltered, and one princess had learned that heroism could come in the most unexpected form. The palace had settled into a deceptive calm. The halls glimmered with light, the gardens shimmered under the twin moons, and the soft whisper of fountains filled the night air. Yet Evan Holt knew better. Danger had not disappeared. The Varine Circle still lingered, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Evan moved quietly through the corridors, every sense alert. His back still throbbed from the previous attack, but his resolve had only strengthened. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders, heavier than any weapon or armor. Princess Ares had trusted him, relied on him, and he could not fail her, not now, not ever. Ares had insisted on accompanying him, despite his protests. "I cannot let you face danger alone," she said, her voice firm and unwavering. "You protected me once. I will not stand aside while danger comes again." Evan shook his head, wincing at the pain. "You should stay behind, princess. I will protect you. That is my duty." Her silver eyes met his, bright with determination. "Then let us face it together." Hours later, the Varine Circle made their move. Masked rebels stormed the west balcony, blades glinting in the moonlight, silent and swift. Ares froze, her heart hammering as fear surged through her. Guards rushed forward, but Evan was already in front of her, his body tense, every muscle ready. "Stay behind me," he commanded, voice steady despite the pain that ran through his spine. Ares obeyed instantly, pressed close to the wall as Evan stepped forward, facing the attackers. His stance was unshakable, the calm in his eyes a quiet warning to those who would harm her. The rebels hesitated, momentarily unsure that it was enough. Evan's courage radiated outward, a shield stronger than any weapon. He moved swiftly, deflecting the first few attackers with precise, calculated motions. Every strike, every maneuver was careful, protecting Ares while keeping the attackers at bay. The guards joined, and together, they subdued the rebels before any could reach the princess. Ares watched him, heart pounding not with fear now, but with awe. She saw how he stood tall despite his injuries, how his every movement spoke of determination, and how his focus never wavered from her safety. In that moment, she understood the depth of his courage. He had faced pain, exhaustion, and even death, Yet he had never faltered when it mattered most. When the last attacker fell, silence filled the balcony. Evan stood, breathing hard, every muscle trembling but unbroken. Iris rushed to his side, gripping his arm tightly. "You cannot keep doing this," she whispered, eyes glistening. "I cannot lose you." Evan looked at her, sweat and pain streaking his face, yet a small smile touched his lips. "You won't lose me," he said firmly. "Not while I'm breathing." Iris's heart swelled with gratitude and something more she could not name. She pressed close to him, her small hands holding him as if she could anchor him to this world. "You are incredible," she said softly. "No one else could have stood like you did." Evan shook his head gently, a faint laugh escaping. "I am not incredible. I am human. And humans sometimes do the impossible when someone they care for is in danger." Iris looked at him, understanding dawning. He was not just a soldier. He was more than a protector. He was a reminder that courage could come in forms the Lunari had never imagined. That night, she realized that heroism was not defined by titles or bloodlines. It was defined by choices. By selflessness, by the strength to stand when fear and pain demanded surrender. The rebellion had failed. Not because of weapons, not because of strategy, but because one human heart refused to falter. And in that refusal, the Varine Circle had learned that the Empire's strength did not lie only in the Lunari, it could also lie in humanity. As the palace settled back into quiet, Iris stayed by Evan's side. Her hand rested on his arm, her silver eyes reflecting both relief and admiration. "You saved me again," she whispered, "and I will do it again." "If I must," he replied. Together, they stood beneath the moonlight, facing a world that had once doubted them both. And for the first time, the bond between human and Lunari felt unbreakable, a quiet force stronger than any army, any threat, or any darkness. Because courage, they both understood, was not about power. It was about the heart, and in that heart, one human had changed the course of an empire. The Lunari palace sparkled under the light of twin moons, its halls alive with whispers of what had happened. Word of Captain Evan Holt's heroism had spread like wildfire. Humans had always been seen as fragile, outsiders, beings who could not withstand the challenges of a great empire. But now they were seeing differently. He had risked his life to save Princess Iris, not for fame, not for reward, not for anything but the choice to do what was right. And in doing so, he had changed the hearts of the Lunari forever. The coronation ceremony of Princess Iris was to be held that evening. The palace thrummed with energy as officials, diplomats, and citizens gathered. The princess entered the hall, her silver robes shining like liquid moonlight. Guards stood at attention, the room filled with awe. Yet Iris did something unexpected. She walked past the ministers, past the counselors, past the gathered royalty. She approached the human soldier who had saved her life, her eyes bright with emotion, and stopped beside him. The room fell silent. "This man saved my life," she announced, her voice strong yet soft. Not because he was ordered, not because of duty, but because humans carry courage in their hearts that can change the world. And today, I honor that courage. She placed a small royal crest on Evan's chest. The gesture, simple yet powerful, spoke louder than any speech could. The hall erupted into applause, cheers filling the air. For the first time, a human stood side by side with the Lunari princess, not as a servant or a soldier, but as a hero. Evan felt the weight of the moment press on him. He looked at Iris, the girl whose life he had risked everything to protect. Her silver eyes held gratitude, admiration, and something tender he could not yet name. "You took the blow meant for me," she whispered once the applause faded, her voice soft and trembling. "But you didn't just save my life. You changed it. You changed how I see the world. You showed me courage in a way I will never forget." Evan's chest ached with exhaustion and emotion. I did what I had to do, he said quietly. No glory, no reward. Only the promise I made to keep you safe. Her hand brushed his arm, gentle and warm. You have done more than that, she said. You have shown me hope, trust, and the strength to believe in the impossible. The Empire will remember this day, and so will I. Outside the palace, the twin moons shone brighter than ever. The city streets were alive with joy and newfound respect for humanity. Citizens told the story of the human who had risked everything for the princess, and soldiers saluted him as they passed. For the first time, humans were not outsiders. They were heroes, the Varine Circle, who had once threatened the Empire with whispers of rebellion and fear, now faced a changed world. Courage, sacrifice, and selfless action had shown the people that strength did not always belong to the powerful. Sometimes it belonged to those who chose to stand. Even when the odds were impossible, Ares and Evan stood side by side after the ceremony, watching the people celebrate. For the first time, the princess did not feel alone. For the first time, Evan felt that his choice had meaning beyond duty, beyond orders, beyond expectation. You changed everything, Ares said softly, her eyes meeting his. Not just for me, but for humanity, for everyone who doubted us. I only did what was right, Evan replied, his voice steady but his heart full. Sometimes that is all it takes. She smiled, a smile full of warmth, pride, and quiet love. Sometimes, she said, one heart can change the course of a kingdom. Evan glanced at the crowd, the palace, the people who... The great Lunari Palace always felt cold to outsiders. Its walls were made of shining white stone, its halls filled with soft lights that changed with every passing hour. Servants walked silently. Guards stood in perfect lines like living statues. Everything looked pure, perfect, and distant like a beautiful world untouched by warmth. But for Captain Evan Holt, a human soldier from Earth, the palace felt even colder because he knew he did not belong. Humans had joined the Lunari Empire only a few years ago, and many aliens still looked at them with quiet doubt. Humans lived shorter lives, had weaker bones, and were known for their emotions. The Lunari were proud, long-lived, and calm like clear water. They never showed feelings. They never raised their voices. Evan knew all this. Yet he stood every day outside the chamber of Princess Ares Lunara, the heir to the Empire. Ares was unlike the rest of her people. Even the other Lunari whispered about her. She was gentle, soft-spoken, and too kind for a world built on rules and tradition. Her silver eyes held a sadness no one dared to question. She followed every palace order, but Evan sometimes felt she lived like a bird in a cage, beautiful, rare, and trapped behind golden bars. He had guarded many people in his life, but Ares was different. She did not treat him as a soldier. She treated him like a human being. Every morning, she stepped out of her chamber with graceful steps and a small polite smile. The Lunari guards bowed stiffly, barely looking her way. But Evan always gave her a warm nod, and she always noticed. One morning, when the palace was quiet and the lights glowed soft blue, Ares stopped in front of him. Her voice, gentle as wind, broke the silence. You always look calm, Captain Holt. Evan blinked. No royal ever commented on a guard's expression. I try my best, Princess. Even when you are tired? She asked. He smiled. That's part of the job. Ares looked away for a moment, like she was gathering courage. I do not understand humans very well, she admitted softly. But you seem very different from the others. How so? You do not look at me with fear. Evan paused. Why would anyone fear you? Ares did not answer. Instead, she walked beside him silently as they moved through the long hallway. Her steps were graceful, but her voice carried a weight heavier than her slim frame. When they reached the council hall, she finally whispered, Many believe I am not strong enough to lead. They call me weak, too gentle. Evan's heart tightened. He had heard similar whispers among the guards, but never imagined the words reached her ears. "You're not weak," he said quietly. "Kind doesn't mean weak." Aris turned to him slowly. Her silver eyes widened just a little, as if she was surprised anyone would say that to her. Humans were known for speaking boldly. Lunari were known for hiding emotions. And here they were, two different worlds meeting in a quiet hallway. Evan added softly, "Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who stay kind in a cruel world." Iris's gaze softened, and for the first time, she gave him a real smile, not polite, not royal, but human-like with warmth. "Thank you, Captain Holt," she said. "Your words." She touched her chest lightly. "They feel comforting." He nodded, but inside, something shifted. He felt a strange protective pull toward her. Not because she was royalty, but because she looked like someone who had spent her whole life alone. Later that day, Evan overheard two alien ministers speaking in hushed tones. The Varine circle grows bolder. One whispered, "They want the princess removed. They think she is unfit." Evan froze. His heartbeat quickened. He did not know the details, but he knew danger when he heard it. And now danger was walking directly toward the woman he was sworn to protect. When he returned to his post outside Aris's chamber, she looked up at him with innocent calm. She didn't know. She couldn't know, but Evan did, and he silently promised himself one thing: no matter what came, he would not let harm touch her. The next few days passed with a quiet tension, spreading through the Lunari palace like a slow storm. Everyone sensed something was wrong, but no one dared to say it aloud. Servants bowed quickly and walked away fast. Guards checked every corner twice. Even the tall, shining halls felt darker, as if they too feared what was coming. Captain Evan Holt felt it most of all. He had a soldier's instinct, the kind that sharpened when danger approached. Something was moving in the shadows, something that watched the princess with cold eyes, but Princess Aris seemed unaware. Every morning, she greeted him the same way, with a gentle nod and a soft smile that glowed like moonlight. She continued her duties with quiet grace, attending council meetings, visiting the gardens, and speaking to diplomats who barely looked at her. Evan noticed every detail. He watched the way her hands curled slightly when she was nervous. He saw her eyes soften when she looked out the window toward the stars. She carried her sadness like a silent companion, but she buried it beneath her royal calm. One afternoon, as they walked down the long crystal hallway, Aris paused. "Captain Holt," she said softly, "you are troubled." Evan straightened. "Just keeping alert, Princess." Her silver eyes searched his face. "Do you think danger is coming?" For a moment, Evan wanted to say no. He wanted to spare her worry. But lying to her felt wrong. So he took a slow breath. "I think someone might try to harm you." Iris did not gasp. She did not freeze. She simply lowered her head slightly. "I suspected as much," she whispered. "The council has been tense, and people whisper when I pass." Her voice was steady, but Evan could feel the hurt behind it. "No one should whisper about you," he said firmly. "You're their princess." Aris gave a sad smile. "A princess many do not want," Evan frowned. "Why?" "You're kind, wise, gentle, everything a leader should be." Aris shook her head. "The Lunari do not see leadership that way. They want someone powerful, fearless, someone who does not show emotion. My mother is that kind of ruler. I am not." "Maybe they're wrong," Evan said quietly. Aris looked at him with surprise, as if she wasn't used to someone defending her. "Humans," she whispered, "you speak from the heart. It is refreshing." Evan smiled a little. "We're simple like that." For a moment, she stood silent, her expression softening. Then she asked, almost shyly, "May I tell you something?" "Of course." "When I was a child," she began, I wanted to be a healer, not a ruler. I used to help the injured birds in the palace gardens. I felt alive when I did that." She looked away. "But healers are not allowed to sit on the throne. So they locked my future in a cage before I even understood the world." A silence fell between them, gentle but heavy. Evan swallowed hard. He wanted to tell her she deserved freedom, that she deserved happiness. But he knew her life was tied to the Empire. Instead he said, "I'm sorry you had to let go of your dream." Aris gave him a soft, grateful look. "You are the first to say that." Before he could reply, a faint movement caught Evan's eye, a shadow slipping around a corner. Too fast and too quiet. His body tensed instantly. He stepped in front of Aris without thinking. "Princess, stay behind me." Aris's breath caught. "What is it?" But the hall was empty again. Evan scanned the area carefully. No movement. No sound. Still. Something had been there. "Captain Holt," Aris said softly. "I trust you." Her voice steadied him more than she knew. "I'll keep you safe," he promised. No matter what. That night, the council discussed the growing threat of the Varine Circle, a rebel faction rising in strength. Evan listened from the guard's post outside the door. "Remove her quietly," one voice whispered. "Make it look like an accident. The Empire cannot fall into her hands." Each word was a dagger to his chest. When the meeting ended, Evan stood alone in the dark hallway, fists clenched, breath trembling. Aris was in danger. Real danger. And he was the only one she trusted. He looked toward her chamber, where a soft light glowed under the door. His voice was low but full of resolve. "I won't let them take her." The morning sun streamed through the tall crystal windows of the Lunari Palace, painting the hallways in soft gold. Birds in the palace gardens chirped, and the distant fountains whispered their calm melodies. For a moment, it felt like any other peaceful day. But Evan Holt knew better. His soldier instincts were alert, his senses sharpened. He walked a few steps behind Princess Aris as she made her way toward the diplomacy hall. Her silver robes glided over the polished floors, her eyes soft but watchful. She moved with quiet grace, unaware of the danger hiding in the shadows. Evan scanned the area relentlessly. Every corner, every shadow, every flicker of movement, it all mattered. Humans had a saying, "Keep your eyes open, or the world will surprise you." Evan had learned that lesson long ago. And today, the world had a surprise waiting for a ERIS. As the princess approached the hall. A strange hum filled the air, a sound too faint for most to notice, but sharp to Evan's ears. He froze mid-step. His heart pounded. Something was coming. A glowing sphere, small but deadly, dropped from the ceiling. It pulsed with energy, a silent missile designed to strike the princess. Its target was clear. Evan didn't think. He didn't hesitate. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He lunged forward. Hands on her shoulders, he pushed Aris down just as the sphere struck. The energy pulse slammed into his back with shocking force. Pain shot through him, sharp and burning. He fell to his knees, the world spinning around him, every breath a struggle. "Captain!" Aris screamed. Her voice shattered the calm air like a crystal breaking. She reached for him, panic in her eyes.